put record on? Okay.
Beat you to it.
All right. Cool. Hey, so just to put it on, this is session 4. Tonight we're going to talk logical lending. And it's going to be a program. I have it in PDF tonight. I have it in PowerPoint so as well, but I'm going to show it in PDF. And then we're going to do Rule of 56, which is a phenomenal tracking program. It's kind of an Excel spreadsheet. I'm going to show it to everybody in PDF. If you want it, I will try to load it in an Excel workbook where you guys can actually, because you guys, it's actually a system you guys can use for your own business. And Kevin and I'll explain how we adapted it for multi-purpose use, not just real estate. So it's a whole searchable database, and you guys can use it as ever you want. I mean, once you see it, it's pretty cool. It's pretty involved. And then next week we're going to do rehab, scope of work. I mean, Scott, you do a lot of construction, so maybe that'll be a good one for you to come on and talk about that too. Help these guys with scope of work and stuff. And then we'll have a few other. The following week we're going to do regulation A and regulation D, which would be the 506B and C. I don't know if I'm going to get Jillian on. I did invite her. She said she'll try to make it for that one. If not, she'll be here sometime in the next couple of weeks after that. I'd like to have the securities attorney on when we're talking about security stuff, but I can't. She's pretty busy. So I'm trying to get her on to come on and do it. Jared Rash as well with Metro Construction and Scope Technologies. We'll go over Scope next week as well. I did put those links for Company Cam and Scope Technologies in the group today. Scope Technologies is a Denver-based company. I work for Matt. I work for Jared for about a year and a half, working for him at his roofing company. He has done 15,000 roofs and exteriors. He owns Scope Technology, which is a huge multi-million-dollar company. They're on the. If you've been in Denver, they're in downtown Denver in a like a 17th floor suite. So it's pricey real estate. So he can do all kinds of scopes for you guys. There are all scopes for scopes, gutter scopes, siding, all kinds of scopes. I've mentioned it before. So I put those links in there today. But tonight we're going to go over the logical lending, and we're going to go over Rule of 56. Like I said, next week, scope of work, construction stuff. The following, all the security stuff, and then we're basically 6 weeks of straight just brainstorming, masterminding. And then we're ramping up our your first deal program. These are people with less than 5 deals. And once we get them to about 8 weeks of their program on Wednesday night, we'll start that in March. Then we'll turn them over to you guys, and you guys can broker deals for them, and you guys can mentor them or whatever. We're gonna have a good program for that. I don't know how many people we're gonna get. I'm doing it once at least, and then we're gonna be good. So with that, guys, I'm gonna try to make sure I can do scope of work. Make sure you guys can see this. All right. Can you guys all see this when it comes up? 1 second. Let me see if it's coming up. It's a little slow. Okay. Can you guys see this?
No, not yet.
I can.
Okay. Because it says you guys can.
Did you have to click on the other window?
Yeah, it's weird because like it says, it tells me that you guys are supposed to be able to see it.
Okay, yeah, we can see it now.
Okay, cool. I got to minimize my screen so I can actually. Okay, so this is logical learning, and Cameron, you probably saw this in 2020. Did a few minor changes, but just as a refresher for you guys. And then just keep in mind, if people come in, I have to, try to get through this one, and they'll do Rule 56. So these are 5 things to look for and question before doing a lot of work on a file. So keep in mind on this, you're actually probably assuming the role of you're a private money broker or you're a lender. If you're not intending to do either or, this is just going to be good information because this is actually what a private money broker or a lender or someone like that will actually look at. So obviously in here, as a disclaimer, I'm making no earning claims, guarantee income or success, so it's just a standard. I'm not a lawyer, don't give legal advice. I usually get my legal advice on Facebook like everyone else. Just kidding. So just check, these are very strong opinions. So logic lending really revolves around these 2 questions. How are you going to make money? How are you going to service the debt? Are you going to be able to pay for the debt deal? So if you remember a couple of weeks ago, we had the deal background details form. We had the intro doc, and we had another one that was like the short version with the 6. If you're just at the phone and you just take down, hey, you're going to call these people back or whatever, the intro doc. So there's a lot of questions you're going to want to ask. deals with, this is education, lending. It's logical. So you always want to ask questions. You're always going to require the borrower to prove that they are going to successfully make money on the transaction, either through their ability to fix and sell the property for a profit, or acquire the property, attach debt financing to it, and still show positive monthly cash flow. This can also work, obviously, if you're going to rent the property. Now and it applies a little bit to, like, if you're doing multifamilies, you're doing syndications. Obviously, there's a lot of different factors in there. And we can refer you guys to Angel or Anthony or the Gabe or the people that have done a lot of multifamily. If these items can be proven as one of the 5 criteria and title is clear, we should be able to logically lend. So, like, it comes back to is a lot of information that you can ask you for. So this is the lending pyramid, and so when you get into, these are the things that a lender is going to look for. Level 1 is going to be the value. It's going to be the as is and the ARV. Your reserves are your ability to pay. So does someone have reserves? Do they have? A lot of times the real lenders are going to look for the first. They're going to look that they want you to have down payment if they're requiring it. If it's not a 100% program, which there are very few of them, and the ones that are out there have special requirements, they're going to look for your reserves, and they're going to want you to have closing costs and probably the first payment. That's generally most lenders. That's not all lenders. The second thing, we talked about this in week 1 with the 6 C's, experience. That's level 3. They're looking for experience. They're looking for credit score in level 4 of the pyramid towards the bottom. Now, they're not going to go in and do a detailed credit report on most people, and people do say it's asset based, but there are lenders that require credit. A lot of times they're looking for what is your credit score, because they want to know how to tier you. Like Kogo Capital will go between 11 and 16%, generally most of their fix and flip programs. And if you're in the fire, they'll do down. They actually showed us at one time on one of the fireside chats that they do, that they actually did a guy who had 550, but he had medical debt. Now, here's an interesting thing about medical debt. So they've recently passed in some states, and they're trying to go nationally, where they won't be able to allow you to ding you for credit for medical debt. So apparently that's something that's in the works right now. I mean, I actually agree with more. I agree with, and this is one of my strong opinions. I'd rather see that than I'd rather see student loan forgiveness, because people can't help medical debt a lot of the times. And so they're going to look for that to tier you. They're also looking for employment. Obviously, if you've got a business and you're self-employed, you're going to have your business, tax returns and your business bank accounts. So when we start getting into the pyramid more in depth, we start looking at value, as is or ARV. It's going to speak to the safety of the deal, and that's the value. So it's how safe is the deal? This is good value. Now, if you go to Privy and you can get a deal at Privy through Benson at 35 to 40% of ARV, and you haven't had to pay a wholesaler a lot of, an assessment fee, or assignment fee, you're probably going to be pretty good, and you're going to have a lot of security in there. You're almost flipping the script. You're going from maybe making 20 to 30%. Before, without holding costs and things where you might come out to 10 or 15% profit, you're going to flip the script and you're going to be like making 50 or more percent. So it's phenomenal if you can get a deal like that. And it shows value that helps with safety. Reserves, where is it? That is your ability to pay. So the borrower's ability to pay is their reserves. Do they have money? Because if you have money and you're having set aside for emergency, you don't have to use it. But they want to see that, hey, if there's a problem, if your exit strategy is you're going to flip this, and it's 4 months of rehab, but all of a sudden, hey, you're in Colorado right now, and the weather is like we can get snow tomorrow, and it can be 60 on Wednesday, and it can be snow on Friday and be 70 on Sunday. You got a lot of ups and downs in construction schedules, especially if you're doing exteriors. So does your construction schedule get pushed out? Does that affect your your interest? Does that affect your principal? And a lot of lenders that I like to see deals where they do give you 12 months, and they break it up. If they're going to charge you 12%, they just charge you like 1% a month, and then they charge you a balloon payment at the end after you've sold the property or refied it. So they want you to have reserves. Experience, properties on the schedule, real estate. So we have 2 schedules. I have posted them on the in the files tab section in the Facebook group. So if you need them, they're there. One is for real estate you currently own, and it can include your primary residence. You do want to put that's your primary residence if you want to count that. Like if you're just getting started, you might want to count that. If you're experienced and you got 10 deals and you own 5 rental properties, you probably don't need to or want to put your primary residence on there. but they also got one of sold. So if you've been flipping, you can put sold properties on the other one. There's two different forms. They're completely different, so you don't combine them, but they're both available to you in the primary. And then your credit score, utilization, credit. Are they responsible? Like I said, if what's going on right now is if they're not going to frown on you if you have a medical bill on there. I owe personally, and I'll say this: I owe Denver Health some money in my own situation, but it's not on my credit report, so I don't. They don't put it on there. Employment. What's your location, your exit strategy, and a term Kevin and I use all the time, your reputational capital. Have you already worked with this lender? Do they know you? If you're a brokering and you're doing your own deal, so let's say you're broker and you bring them clients and they know you from that, and you bring them 10 or 12 clients and you get paid a commission or your broker fee, but now this is your deal. That processor, and that underwriter, and that transaction coordinator is going to know you, and that's reputational capital. They know, hey, this guy's solid. In that case, sometimes maybe the underwriter says no on a deal, but in like the case of Kogo, we Arnold will have a team. They'll go in and they'll actually they'll decide on a deal sometimes based on if they know you. Most of the lenders that you work with, and that's another reason I encourage everybody to sign up for two, three, or more lenders to broker for. Even if you only broker one or two deals a year for people and you get a little extra income, that does help. So let me see. I'm trying to get to questions, guys, but I can't. If you have a question right now, I can't really see it. So I'll answer the question at the end of this. There's 25 slides, and then I'll answer questions, and then we'll do rule of 56. So value. So this is assuming you guys we've talked about the collateral DNA report. I will put my link in there tomorrow. It is $25. It comes out, it's pretty solid. The collateral DNA report takes a lot of these factors already into consideration as far as the value, and it's solid. So they'll look at items 2 to 5. And so this is like an appraisal. You'll still probably, for most lenders, still need an appraisal, but this would give you, for $25, you can't beat the detail it gives you.
You're upwards of about 95% of what's in an appraisal on this report.
Yeah.
So it covers everything that they're looking for on an appraisal. The only thing that's different is just a specific dollar value that they're putting on the property, but everything else around it, the market, the comps and all that kind of stuff's on that collateral DNA report. So that's enough for them to be able to put a good basis behind it.
It's solid. And so they're going to look at the borrowers, paying $200,000 on a property, the ARV at 350, as is 150. ARV comes in at 320. The DNA report's going to say the as is 190. So what is the value of this property? If the appraisal is 150, the DNA is 190, they're going to go, the absolute's going to be 170. So on this particular lender that I'm talking about, which is one that I've done a lot of deals with, Kogo, that's what they do. They'll go in the middle. Generally, if there's a difference between with the appraisal and the DNA report, if their DNA report is higher, it helps you. So if you're going through them, if you pull the DNA report for just yourself, you still want to do it, or your client. If you're brokering money, have them pay it, have them go on and use the link. And I'll say right now, I get $5 commission on it, so I will disclose that and put that out there. But it's for you, it's actually like 30 pages of solid information. You can make a lot of decisions on that property, right? Even if you don't need it for a lender. And some other lenders, smaller lenders, may have their own version, and they may actually just do their own. But this is one that's $25. I'll put the link on there. You can also get a proof of funds letter for $5. And then if you need over 500,000, they have a number you can call, and they'll give you another, higher proof of funds. And you really don't need to go through them. I mean, you can sit there and go it if you need to go out shopping or something, or show it to somebody. You don't have to use them. It's not a requirement. So reserves. So we start with the schedule of real estate and the risk schedule of assets. If they have them, where are they and what are they? So remember, in this presentation, we are assuming the rule that we are either the lender or we are a private money broker. Like I said, if you're just a borrower, just kind of use this for your own information of what a lot of lenders will require. So how will they pay? For a loan to be logical, we need to determine how the borrower is going to be able to afford this loan. The last thing we want to do is force our borrowers into sticky financial situations. They must present the ability to afford the monthly debt service of the loan. If they're going to fix it up and sell it, we need to know where those rehabs or funds are coming from. If they're going to borrow the money from us, we need to see bids from licensed and bonded contractors. If they're going to do the work themselves, we need to see proof that they have successfully done this in the past. So that comes down to reputational capital and experience if they've done it before. We're going to go over a scope of work and rehab. You'll have those forms. So if you do anything, or you broke a money or something, you just want to start getting these standard forms. There's one that's really detailed. I'll give you. There's one that's just quick if you're doing a quick analysis, and I'll give you some other resources to help you, like HomeWise and some other ones. You can kind of get close. You're not going to get exactly, especially now, but it can get you within about 10% of where you're going to be in the budget. If you just overestimate, if HomeWise comes back and tells you that something's $9,000, just come back and make it 10 or 11,000, just for, just to make sure you got enough to cover it. So how much do you have in the bank? How much do you have in reserves? Experience, we talked about, is the 6 E's. Don't worry, we don't do any tests in this class. Otherwise I'd say, hey, what are the 6 E's? Experience. How many properties do they own? How many flips have they done? How well are they managing their business? So one of the great things is if you are dealing with somebody who's already done, and we've got people in the group, guys, that have already done deals. And we got, Gabe's like $30 million worth of deals we've had. Well, I mean, if you guys talk to Cameron can tell you a lot of this too on his deals that he's done with people. Experience matters a lot. And, if you got people that know what they're doing, the lender's going to be a lot more comfortable, maybe even go on borderline, something that maybe is right on the line, that they're going to sit there and go, okay, this is this is a little bit risky, but we know the guy. And the guy's got reserves and he's got experience. So he's not going to get himself into trouble. And most of the stuff you see on Flip This House and stuff, when they get in trouble, it's for entertainment, usually. One of the greatest prevention tools from defaults is a borrower has successfully done deals in the past. Like I said, it's experience. Buying a second home that is in need of serious renovation is a significant undertaking and must go into it without a clue. It has to do with what they're doing. A borrower who can produce before and after photos of a property or multiple properties, as well as copies of checks showing the amount of money they made, is preferable. We ultimately are looking for repeat borrowers and want to support their rehab business. All right, so here's a little war story. So as I was transitioning in 2017 into the private money, into real estate, I was kind of riding the fence of doing construction with my friend Paul, who Kevin and Jesse Paul's one of my business partners in my other businesses. And Paul was a successful contractor. We were doing work for some fix and flippers, and one guy went so egregiously that we were just going to do the painting, change the windows out. We weren't going to have to pull any permits. He decided to, at the last minute, he was going to replace the electrical panel and gut the electrical system, and he tried to do it without a permit. So we actually quit the job. we actually quit the job because of that. We weren't going to be responsible when we were going to be doing the windows and all that. So you want to be careful out there on contractors and also doing a lot of your own work. If you're just doing painting, flooring, changing appliances and stuff, that's cool. Make sure, document it, take pictures. We're going to give you a free tool next week called Company Cam. We just, you can just go on it right now and sign up for it too. The free version does 90% of what you need. The only, the paid version just does a little bit more, but you can do everything you want. It's just, if you scale up and you're doing multifamilies and you're doing all kinds of stuff, then you might just want to get one of the two paid. I think there's 2 levels of paid plans, but for 90% of what you'll need, Company Cam's free version is awesome. You can take live pictures, load it up. You could be in your office and your contractor could be taking pictures. You could then upload them to your lender for your draws. And they may not charge you for inspections if you can show them, hey, these are the 40 pictures you need to get your draw of the work that was done that week. You're going to get $3,000. You need to take those 40 pictures to coincide with what's on that week's draw. So Company Cam is a great tool. And like I said, you don't have to worry about taking notes on it tonight. We're going to discuss it next week. And I did put the links into the Facebook group. So credit your open trade lines, your use of available trade lines, your type of trade lines, bank mortgage loans, auto loans. Obviously, if you're looking at, that's going to be like a personal stuff. We went to the first E being entity. If you do an LLC or corporation, you got your IRS, your EIN number, and you got your business bank account, and you've been in business long enough to at least file taxes, then you're going to want to file your business um, your business uh, information. Now, keep in mind, guys, people are, I know that people get knocked off and all that. No big deal. Just remember that tomorrow by 10 o'clock Denver time, I will have this uploaded onto YouTube, and I will put the link into the Facebook group. It is hidden. It is private. Nobody else but there's 13 people together with 29 total on the group, because we have some 2020 people and a few other associates. There's only 29 people that will have access to this Zoom session, and that'll be up 10 o'clock. So if you miss anything, don't worry, just check it out again tomorrow. It's available to you. The link will be in the group. So are these smart investors or average consumers? They're looking at credit scores. They want to make sure that people aren't I'm just saying, I'm going to use the term dirtbag. I mean, it's a different story if you got a medical bill, or, when COVID happened, people were having problems. And I think a lot of the people that look at credit now can kind of see that. Generally, if you have an issue, you should be able to resolve it with with Experian. And, they have Credit Karma. These guys see all the commercials. So, I actually use Credit Karma, and I got like a 30-point raise in my, because I had an old, stupid, thing that was on that I just forgot about. It was paid, but it was just, it got me 30 more points just using Credit Karma. We're less concerned with the score and more concerned with how they handle tough situations. So, and most lenders that I know will do bankruptcy if it's discharged. Do they show up and die? That's my favorite line. Do they show up and die in the wake of previous challenges, or do they work through them to ensure the lenders, investors, or creditors are taken care of? Bankruptcy and foreclosure are acceptable on a credit report for most lenders if they're utilized as a last ditch afloat. They're valid tools in business. I mean, there's a lot of discussions about a former president that had some bankruptcies. I always look at a different, but it's all depends. It's a tool that's viable. That's why they have a bankruptcy court. Employment. Do they have a real job? Do they have stability? How difficult will collections be? So, if they have a government job or they've been a long time job, most of the lenders are going to that's cool. Obviously, if this is your full-time business, you're going to have your experience forms. Your client needs to have their experience forms and show, hey, I've done 3. And if this is their first time, it's cool. That's when it comes down to a good executive summary and finding a program for them that they can do. If they have, if they can meet Cameron's deal and his stipulations, guys, he has a really solid deal. Program for you guys. Robert Newburn has some really good stuff if you're looking at multifamily. So keep that in mind. That if people keep getting knocked out, so keep that in mind, guys. If if you can meet those stipulations, they can help you get into those programs. I think Cameron's deal, you can get like 50 properties. I think you have to Cameron, if you're still on, you have to have 660 credit score.
Yeah, we're looking for better credit scores, 660 or above.
Cool.
Wait,
Yeah, guys, if you need to, and you guys can hit Cameron up in the group now. He's in the group now, so don't, you just, hit him up. He can help you if you're interested in that. And that's a solid deal, and he can go more in depth in that with you on your particular situation. So obviously the riskiest loaners are self-employed. So lending off the funds and guidelines. So these are the dealing with most of the lenders we have in the lender list are more, and they're not quite institutional. They are a lot of our funds where they actually use other people's money. They have other people that just give them money they invest money with them, they get a return because they don't want to have to go through all the paperwork and the hassle. And most of the lenders have their servicing companies, they service them in-house. So these are first trust deed lending only. Credit is only used for a rate reduction. Like I said, they tier you. So it's a difference between getting maybe 12% and maybe getting 9 if someone's out there offering 9 and versus 12. You get a little bit better interest rate. Interest only. Minimum loan, most of it is, and for most of the like Kogos and stuff, it's 50,000 for a purchasing loan. People usually put minimum loan amounts because they'll loan you money on rehab. Like I think it's 15,000 minimum on rehab. So if you have $10,000 in rehab, you might as well apply for 15,000 because they're not going to approve you at 10. 3 to 24 month terms. They're looking for a term of 6 months. The borrowers receive 0 tier adjustment. This is for most underwriters. For terms of 12 months, the borrowers will move down 1/2 point per tier. Terms of 18 months, the borrowers will move down 1 tier. Terms of 24 months, they will move down 1.5 tiers. Most of them are no prepayment payment penalties. They want the money back because they want to loan it out again. So there's no prepayment penalty with, I'm going to say 90% of our lenders, maybe 100% of them. It just depends. They have different programs. We have some, Visio has like 6 different programs. Lending One has like 9 programs because they also have some 30-year, and there is one that I just came across that has 40 years at like 2.5%, which is ridiculous. It's for, if you own, but you've had to have it for 2 years and it's got to be stabilized. But they'll give you 40 years and they give you Fannie Mae. Like it's a ridiculous program. I'm actually trying to get the tier sheet, and I'm supposed to have a call with the guy next week. Verified income requirement, down payment, construction rehab costs, closing costs, 3 months in reserves. Usually they want 3 months of, the payments. That just depends. Cross collateralization. If you have multiple properties, they can use multiple properties to collateralize. Property requirements are non-owner occupancy. They have systems to tell. And, if you're brokering money for people and that's what this deal backgrounds and kind of doing an interview. You want to have a Zoom or something with them and interview them and go through the deal backgrounds check that I put out there in the introdoc, and use those two for your interview with them if they're a client. If you're just a borrower, then just use those 2 forms for the kind of questions that they're probably going to ask you at some point. And we had one that lady was trying to do a straw purchase for a friend who had bad credit. And we kind of picked up on it that she was trying to do that. And it would have been, it would have come, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. Most of these lenders, if you're brokering money, they're not going to do clawback on you. I'd like to say 90%. Clawback's a bitch. It's kind of like restitution. It's like all of a sudden your next like 4 or 5 deals, you get paid nothing, or you get paid, it's usually you get paid nothing on the first one, 75% on the second one, or whatever. You don't make your full commission for the next until you get like 5 more deals. So they'll do single family duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes, condos, multifamily. Clear title is required unless there's a payoff, and the payoff is going to be taken care of in the closing, and that'll have to be documented. They want 1 year hazard insurance premium paid. So you got to go to Jake or the Gecko or Limu Emo or whatever it is, that stupid bird that Liberty Mutual has. You got to go get your 1 year of insurance. Third party independent appraisals by approved national company. So a lot of them will do it internally. If they won't do it internally, and then you ask them if you can use Clear Capital or First American Title, I can give you those links. You can just go sign up for an account yourself. They have it, you can sign up, and you don't have to pay for it to sign up. They just put you on record, so then you can use them. Then you're a client, and then a lot of them will use third-party clients. I'm also going to put John Hornick's information in there tomorrow. He's that lawyer I told you guys about last week. He can close deals in all 50 states. He can do title. He can do all kinds of stuff. Law firm. I met him at Pitbull Conference, just like Benson at Privy. John is a major sponsor. He sponsors all the Pitbulls. He's one of the big sponsors there, like the gold sponsors, which is like $10,000. That's before, all the other stuff that he does. So John's really phenomenal, and he has a really good program. Like I said, all 50 states. Has his values accepted no older than 120 days. Purchase to loan values cannot exceed the lesser of 65% or 80% of purchase price. So if the loan amount for some lenders is less than $25,000, their loan to values, a lot of the cases are going to reduce to less than, it's going to go down to 50%. So keep that in mind if you're buying, like houses in St. Louis or Detroit or somewhere where you can get houses under 25,000. Refinance loan to value cannot exceed 65%. So, and this is if it's a refi, you get cash back. LTV is lower than 50% if more than 10% of loan amount is received by borrower at closing. Most of the cases, there's no seasoning requirements on refinances unless it's a gift or a quick claim. Cross collateralization, LTVs remain the same, and all properties are the same transaction type. So if you got multiple transaction types, then it's going to be calculated separately. And that becomes really confusing, each property type. I've only had that happen once and it sucked. I mean, literally on my end, it was a lot of work. One example from one-off investors. So I'm just going to show these to you guys for a couple minutes instead of talk. You guys can kind of read these. This was actually a deal done by one of my lenders. So it's actually a real deal. And so in Whittier, California. So, they charged them 13%. The loan term was 12 months. Borrowers is going to purchase and rehab. They're obviously going to sell it. Exit strategy. So there's your exit strategy. So I always try to point out the E's. That was like the first thing I do when I do one of these classes is the E's. So anytime I have an E in exit strategy, executive summary, experience, I'm going to point that out because those are key things that help a lot of new people learn, get financed right away in their first deal or first couple of deals. It'll be really important in the Your First Deal program because we're really going to stress that. And if any of you guys that are experienced want to come on and talk to some of these people, I don't know, you're welcome to. They're going to be folded in at the completion of their program into this, where they're not going to be in there to being a masterclass student. They're going to be in there being an apprentice to you guys. And it's just optional. So if you want to, have them as an apprentice or boots on the ground or bird dog, you have an opportunity to work with some new people and help them get started. So that's just one. This is another one. This is Milwaukee. And, these are like a lot of houses that are out there right now and a lot of Detroit, Milwaukee, Indianapolis. And you guys use Privy. Indianapolis and some of the suburbs of Chicago, not Chicago per se, and I'd have to say like Hoffman Heights. There's a couple other ones. Honestly, I know them more better because I watch Chicago Fire and Chicago PD and more on Chicago PD. But believe it or not, I'm more about Chicago than I ever wanted to know just from watching those shows. So this is a good deal. They're doing a rehab. There's an exit strategy. Same thing. They're going to use a separate investor, separate property. So you can see their loan highlights. The borrower is paying $1,000 towards the buyout as a requirement of the borrower performance guarantee. So this is one lender that has a borrower performance guarantee, and it's hard to explain it. So I'm going to try to dig it out. I have a copy of it somewhere. I'll try to dig it out for next week and post it. But they have a unique situation where they will actually let somebody do it's a buyout, and it's basically when they're doing the product, they have a second home or they have something that they're cross collateralization or they got to pay it off or something, and they have a performance guarantee, which means that this lender will actually kind of assume some of the risk. This borrower has great reserves, which is, really key. Reserves is good. And that's something if you're brokering, you want to ask them, do you guys have money? Do you have money available? I mean, do you have a 401k? I mean, they don't have to put their money in now. They don't have to pay it out of there. But if they have reserves, if they have $150,000, $200,000, $300,000 in their 401k, and they can show that, a lot of the lenders are going to accept that for reserves. And a lot of people get scared. I don't have reserves because they don't want to disclose it. But you tell them, hey, if you got this money in your 401k, the lender is going to approve you because it's showing that you got money where, hell, if something did happen, you could pull it out. You don't want to. They don't want you to. But it's always there if you have to. If you get in an absolute situation where they have to pull money out, and you got 401k or you got stock. I mean, I have some Tesla stock. I don't want to sell it. Tesla's going to double in price when Cybertruck comes out. Another one of my strong opinions. I always point to. Yeah, I think I can hear you, Doris.
Oh, you can.
Yeah.
Oh,
No, did you ask me a question? Oh, I need to go back and fix something for Kevin real quick.
no, go ahead. I'll catch up with you.
No, I
later.
didn't know. No, I was just saying, guys. I don't see the questions while I'm on my screen as easily. So it takes me a second to see them. I have to make Kevin a co-host again, which is the key. If I get kicked out for some reason, then Kevin can keep going on while I try to get back in.
Yeah, he's been doing it the other way this time. I got kicked out twice last week and just did it again a little while ago.
It wasn't as bad, and Cameron can even attest to this. In 2020, I got kicked out like at least once every other week, and I had to come back on my phone. Because you guys heard the story. If you see my Facebook post, we had a fire in 2020 in July, which is before we did the 2020 class. But by the time in September, October, November, we had a Sprint tower burn down right by our lake, and so it literally jacked our cell phone coverage. Verizon got replaced first because it happened to be on the top of the fire station, and the fire department gets the priority, I guess. Exit strategy again. So I'm just gonna let you guys read these, just for a few minutes. These are just a couple of, deals. Because I'm gonna do rule 56, and then we're gonna brainstorm for about 15 minutes after that. After next week, the next 2 weeks, we're gonna have 6 weeks of solid, just 2 hours of brainstorm sessions. We're gonna do scenarios and talk about stuff. So we only got 2 more weeks where we'll be putting documents up and stuff. So everybody's read through this. You guys can kind of see. There's just some, and I post, guys. I uploaded this today, so if you want to go back through it, and I put the last week's broker presentation in there. So if you want to go through these on your own time, you can just download them now. And then you got them, and you can just study them. So here's number 5, Muncie, Indiana. I'm trying to remember who's from Muncie. What celebrities from Muncie, Indiana? I don't think it's the Jacksons. I know they're from Indiana. I think that maybe that the police department where those celebrities became police officers or whatever. On that TV show. So like I said, I'm just going to, you guys can look through these more on your own time as far as these scenarios go. But we're going to do this, and I want you guys to prepare your own scenarios. If you see deals out there, and you want to talk about them, the last 6 weeks will be a good opportunity for everybody to present deals, and we can all discuss them. So these have Section 8 housing involved. And Section 8 is a good way to get, you're going to get paid since the government does it. Yeah, here's another thing, guys. Section 8. So they have Section 8, right? It's HUD. They also have Section 3 as part of the HUD program. And Section 3 works with the Department of Labor and HUD, and it's labor. So when I told you about my friend Paul earlier, when I worked with Paul, we had a contract with the Denver Housing Authority, and they obviously get their housing money through Section 8 and through HUD and all that, but they have Section 3, which is employment. We got a huge $1 million a year roofing contract for them for some of their houses they own outside of the projects. They have a lot of houses, and we got that because we wrote our proposal more towards the employment side of trying to help some of their people gain jobs. Just a kind of a side note, because a lot of people know Section 8, but they don't realize they have Section 3 as well. So I don't know if that's like the case. So this is the detail there, and this is that deal details forms. Like I said, I've got 2 versions. I got the intro doc, which you guys want to download. You want to use that, whether you're brokering money or lending money or you're a borrower. But this is the deal. These are the details that anybody's going to want to know. The ideal 9. Email address, phone number, address, what type of property, purchase price, loan amount, expected cost of repairs. Next week you'll have the long version and the short version of the scope of work, plan time of completed rehab. Right now, people too, I would say, with time, with delays in supply chain, my parents did a renovation on their garage. My dad has this car collection, and that Kevin has seen, and it's been they have a little bunkhouse between the 2 garages, and my dad just put $100,000 into it, but it took 6 months after they finished it to get the appliances for it. It's like a little apartment, like it has 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, kitchenette, like a living room, and it took 6 months to get the appliances. So obviously it goes into these deals, as is value after repaired. Exit strategy, there's your E again. Rent-a-meter. If you guys ever been to Rent-A-Meter, you can go to rentometer.com, and it can help you get all the rental rates and the kind of demographics and all that if you're going to be a landlord. So definitely download and look at Rent-A-Meter. How much money are you putting in? What's your address if you're doing cross collateral? If you're doing cross collateral, order a DNA report for that property as well. loan term 6, 12, 18, 24 months or longer. They're not really, most of them aren't going to go over 24 months. At that point, if you're doing a rental property, you're going to want to refi to Sinago and get your 30-year program through Fannie Mae because you'll get 2.5 to 3%. What rates did you budget for your cost of capital? You know, if you're looking at, I would estimate high. You know, if you come in and you can get 8 or 9, you're good, but I would start putting 10 to 12 just to make sure you're good in your estimate. Business entity type and name if you're LLC. If you got a guarantor, some are going to require, and there's some that say if anybody owns 10% or more, they have to be on the deal. That's why I said if you can find somebody who's going to loan a down payment, get them to loan you 9% instead of 10, and then come up with the 1% yourself, and then they don't have to be on the deal. Credit score, employment, number of deals, experience, challenges on credits. You can do explanation of negative items. If you're going to do a car deal, if somebody has bad credit, they're going to have to do STIPs. They have to explain negative items, and that goes to that's when they get 21% or 18% in some states. How much do you have in the bank and how much do you have in reserves? A lot of them are going to use Plaid, and they just go in and Plaid tells them, and it just I've never seen Plaid on the banks on their end, so I can't tell you what it's like. But if you guys have done any kind of bank verifications, you know about Plaid. So here's a quick review, guys. So like I said, the 5 items of the pyramid: value, reserves, experience, credit score, employment. Have you got any questions on this? So that's kind of the logic of lending. It's a lot of how they make the decisions. Most of the lenders are looking at those 5 areas. You know, and that comes to the items on the borrower's checklist, making, those are the requirements, your stipulations.
Nate,
Yeah.
what is Plaid?
Plaid is a program. So let's say you're applying, I don't know. Well, I'll use Earnin. So there's an app called Earnin. Like if people have salaries and they want to get paid, you've probably seen the ad. Somebody wants to get an advance, maybe a couple days early on their paycheck. Maybe they're getting paid on Friday, but they need money on Wednesday. So they could sign up for Earnin. So Earnin and Plaid are both apps that would actually check like a bank account without actually, that you just have to put in what you bank, and they'll ask you a few questions, and they go and verify that you have that at bank and that's your account. And some cases they will see that you're, Earnin actually make sure that you have a salary with a, like if you work for Walmart, that because they know then what your pay schedule is when they take the money back. Plaid will do a verification, and it's not like a credit report. They don't do it's not an inquiry. They just look at your bank and say, hey, you're with Chase Bank and you have a checking account and you have direct deposit if they require direct deposit. But in that case, they're usually checking your just some basic information on that you have a bank account. And it's Plaid. I think it's, I don't know. I'll look and see if it's plaid.com or something, because I don't ever use it myself as a client. I've been asked about it a few times, and I've had some of my clients asked for it by some lenders. So I just tell people, if you get it from Plaid, it's like nothing though. I mean, it doesn't do any inquiries. It doesn't affect your credit if they pull it. And I think they just do a cursory look just to verify you have a bank account.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. So it's not a big deal. I wouldn't worry about it if it comes up. If you're gonna private money broker, Doris, then you're gonna want to tell your customers, your clients about that. That they are gonna, a lot of lenders, because you don't know what lenders, when you're just starting out, there's a lot of stuff that you just gotta follow, do the borrower's checklist and do the stuff I've given you as your tools, because it's a lot to learn. I mean, it's like I had 4 days, 40 hours to learn, and it was one lender. I had to learn all the other lenders I worked with. It took me about 6 months really to get, as many lenders as I have. And that way I can, sometimes I can give people 2 or 3 lenders, and lenders change programs too. Today you could have a program that's different than next week because they come up with some special rate or something. Or they got some of their investors want to do something, or, they're doing some kind of introduction or something.
Yeah, every time that you get a chance to get with a new lender or one contacts you, I've actually been in touch with 3 of them so far in the last week that have called me out in the blue. You want to be able to have a blank borrower's checklist there with you, so you can go down what they require. And if they don't give that to you on the phone, they may just send that to you with all the information that they have on the company themselves and what they're doing and the different products that they have. That's what basically I've done. And then they may have you go ahead and sign a broker's agreement to go with that whole thing. So generally you want to take a good day to go over all that stuff and then see if it's a fit before you start messing with it. If you have, if you're in a situation where it won't work for you now, you might want to put it on the shelf because later down the road, something might come in that, hey, wait a minute, they might be able to help. And you can just reach back out to them and you can pull down their stuff off the shelf and say, yeah, we talked about this a while back. And turns out I got a case right now that looks like it might be right up your alley, blah, blah, blah. And they'll go digging through their files and they'll find you. And then they're going to go through and basically update everything that they've done since the time that you've talked to them. There's a lot of them now that are doing that. And it seems like there's more and more coming out every day. So have that borrower's check, have plenty of those copies of that. If you have it on a computer and you can just fill it out PDF to do that. And then put down the company name when you talk to them on there. And then keep that file updated because that's basically going to be your Rolodex of sorts. And you can look that up and then you can tell, okay, I've got a client that has this kind of information coming at me. You can do a search, putting those terms in there, and it'll bring up the different lenders that you're going to be using for something like that. So it makes it easier for you to be able to keep this thing up to date and manageable. Otherwise, you're just going to get snowed under.
So we'll be dealing with people other than the 5 that Nate had in the.
Yes, you will.
Yeah,
Yes,
you want
will.
to. Yeah, you want to basically. I'm gonna put the other ones in the 5. Make sure they're all up in this week. But you have over 1,000 lenders, and not every one of them has a broker program, and sometimes you have to search for it. Like in ground floor, you have to go into the you have to go in the text at the bottom of their landing page on their website to find their broker program. But so out of that 1,000, maybe 100, 150 have broker programs. You don't need them all, but you want to get a good, at least to start out with. Don't overwhelm yourself. Get like the 5 to 10 that seem pretty good, and then make sure you get term sheets. If a lender doesn't have a term sheet, you don't want to work with it. You don't want. I just had some guy that I was talking to out of one of the forums, and he went, "I want to get on your list." And I'm like, "Do you have a term sheet?" Well, I customize it for the deal. I'm like, I want a term sheet because before I ever give it to any of you guys or anybody that I know, I want to know what the terms are myself because I'm not going to recommend some, and you guys can go back to an auto finance manager. If you ever, when you remember buying cars in the past, I mean, the finance manager always had like one of those Rolodexes, but it was like a flip chart and they go through and the first, and Kevin's family can tell you this about this, but they probably had General Motors and a Chevy store would probably be the first and they got their 0% and all their, you get down at the bottom and it's like, this guy's almost buy here payday, buy here, pay here, 21% at the bottom. So you want to have some kind of a system where you got and you do it in your computer, you can do it old school. I was doing both because I would normally want to just have my 5 or 6 go-to and I have my term sheets if I'm talking to people, but you can make a separate file. Like I have a Visio file in my documents. I have a Quogo file. I have my different lenders, my 10 or 12, because even though I have over 1,000, I'm never going to use 1,000, but I have them. And now the VA is actually finished. I'm going to have I'm going to have it all updated. I have it updated now. I'm going to post it, but I'm sending it out again for a VA to make it searchable. You guys are about to see Rule of 56. And now then imagine taking that lenders list that you guys have already kind of seen in a rough format. And I've been using this for 4 or 5 years. So people have been using that list in the format I've had it. I just want to make it so you can search it. So when you see Rule of 56 and you see that you can search it, you can go and there's different ways you can use it and manipulate it. You're going to be able to do that with the lenders list in probably the next 2 or 3 weeks.
And that's basically what you're going to have. And then with this lenders list, as you get more people that come in or more companies that come in seeking you to become a broker for them, you just add them to that list. So you have your own customized list. And again, this is becoming more and more frequent. Like I said, I've had 3 of them call me in the last week and I'm not even advertising. So either that or Nate's trying to sneak around me and wouldn't put it past him. But yeah, that's what you want to do. And then you could just put your term of whatever your deal is and it'll find like-minded lenders, and then you can go through there and get more accustomed to what you're trying to get done. So a lot of the stuff that Nate's talking about is for single family and up to quads. Most folks that are on this particular class are a lot deeper than that, but the same rule still applies.
So you guys see this? This is can you guys all see this now?
Yes.
Yeah, it's not this time.
Okay. So this is rule 56, and it's pretty detailed. And so it's got good information. You can have your group one. So it is designed to go, a group is actually all the way through 20. So you can actually do this for up to like 20 weeks, which is ideal. So this helps you add your contacts, the people you talk to about real estate. If you're a private money broker, these are the people that are you doing your, calling you clients, just to kind of track it and put the information in there and follow up stuff. It's pretty incredible. And you can go all the way down, and it's got all the contacts information, phone numbers, notes, and all this stuff. And so it's really cool. You can go, like I said, you can go up to 20 weeks. It's all form fillable. I'll give this to everybody in this format, and I have it in PDF. It's already uploaded in a files tab section in PDF, so you can look at it and spend a couple of days, and then let me know if you want to use it, because it's phenomenal. And what it also does, this is your mail and your call. So if you're talking to somebody about mail, or you're just old school, or call tracking on the phone or something, you can write them down here. If you're going to networking, so what it says is you're doing, every week you're doing 4 things for networking, or you could be doing 4 offers. You could be writing 4 offers. If you're an investor, you're buying properties, you could be making 4 offers, or you could be doing 4 networking offers. So what I say is you do 4 networking. So one of them could be you're doing an event tonight, and maybe you got 3 other things this weekend. You're doing a couple podcasts, you're watching, you're going to a local real estate event, you're doing something. So you're doing 4 activities a week, plus you're doing, your mail and your call-ins, and then you're writing. This has 4 offers. So you're actually writing 4 offers, or you're doing, you could be 4 client agreements a week. So this sets a goal that if you do this many, 4 a week, and you do it for 12 weeks for 3 months, by the time you've done with that 3 months, I mean, you can start over. You might want to save this and have 3, 3 or 4 different files. You got first quarter, second quarter, download it 4 times. Quarters. This is going to track all of your contacts, all of your information, all of your potential clients, your potential offers, your networking events. It is Excel. It is old school, but this is one of the best tools that we have. And you can use this for other things besides real estate as well. Like I said, once you can download it. Once you got it, you can just download it as many times as you want. Just make different versions of it. Here's quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4. That's real estate. If you're going to do other things, if you're going to be an Osmium with us, which now they're doing onboarding interviews before they accept you, but Helena just got in today. But if you guys do anything like that, then you can have separate ones. Like I said, you can download this as many times as you want. This is pretty expensive to create. So this is one of those things I'm providing for you guys as part of the $397. And I'm giving you some more tools next week, some more. And even though we'll be not doing as much of these in the class the last 6 weeks, every week you're still going to have, I've got probably 300 documents that will be downloaded over the course of the next, like between now and say probably June, that you guys will all be able to use. And you're not going to use all of them, but you can pick and choose what you think works for your business or what you're comfortable with. And then I can help you put your name and your logo on them. So, like I said, this is rule of 56. And it is uploaded in files tab. So you can go today and actually just download it if you want to look at the PDF. Then just get with me and we'll actually make it your own. So I'm not going to really go into much detail on it. Just kind of wanted to kind of give you an example of what it is and telling you that way you've seen it when you can go and you can just download it tonight or tomorrow at your convenience. Now, remember that tomorrow by 10 o'clock Denver time, I will have this episode session uploaded onto YouTube, and I'll put the link into the group. Like I said, no one else can get it outside the 29 people that are in the masterclass. There are 12 signed up for the class. I have one on scholarship. I posted today, guys, that I normally have, and I'm just kind of disclosing it. I normally do have run into people that have been scammed, or they've got a serious amount of investment into real estate without ever getting a deal done. And so I put one person at a time, and most of the time they just come and go, or they just download stuff. So I do like openly disclose that I usually have like one person on scholarship, just to help somebody out. We had our Marine friend actually did this in our last session. He's a good friend of ours, and Marine gunnery sergeant, and him and his wife were into Fortune Builders and Renatas for about $40,000 for education. So he participated in 2020, and he's a solid dude. There's no such thing, I guess, as a former Marine. My brother would tell me that. Hey, anybody know that my brother's actually in the state legislature in Colorado? So just something to pass on. Bill might be interested because he's in Colorado. My brother's actually the vice chairman of the Judiciary Committee and the Finance Committee for Colorado. So he talks to the state attorney general almost every day, and the state budget goes through him. So it's kind of cool. So just to throw that out there. Does anybody have any questions? Because next week we are doing a scope of work, rehab, contractors, company cam, scope technologies, and then we'll just kind of briefly touch loan applications and credit applications. If you're brokering or if you're borrowing, you're going to see applications. If you're brokering, almost everyone the lenders is going to have their own application. So we're going to show you kind of just a generic one for each credit and loan. And we'll kind of tell you some things you got to do if you take credit applications. Like, you don't want to take credit applications. Most of the lenders will have a portal or an address for you to send it to their person where it never sees you, because you don't have to worry about storing it or shredding it, or having it found in your garage buying a Corvette, things like that.
Okay, Biden.
Yeah, I wasn't saying that because I didn't want to be political. I was making a joke like, "Yeah, I had a."
I like a Corvette, but I don't think I won't have it in my files in my Corvette. Unless it's a 2024.
I left the Army and they took everything from me that would have been like, hell, dude. When I got to the Army, they made you turn all your crap in, and like it had to be almost brand new. And it's like, dude, you gave it to me with holes in it. All right. So if anybody has any questions, we can answer them now. I can take off the recording. If you guys have any deals you want to talk about that, like I said, it's hidden. It's everyone in our group is going to be solid if they hear something, but it's just, even though it's a hidden group and all that stuff, I just want to protect your deals. Spencer, those deals are low because they're just an example. So when you get a term sheet from your lender, I'm answering questions, guys. When you guys get term sheets from particular lowers, they're going to be different. Those are examples, and those were just one lender when I was making an example of, because you got 1,000 lenders, you got how many term sheets I'm going to have. We'd be here like hours and hours and hours if I went through every lender.
What?
Robert Newbern. Kevin, you posted it? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, 75% is normal. On to value. And so, like I said, that is just one lender. And I built this program in 2020 during the pandemic. So a lot of information has been updated just on those. I'm using these in examples, but it's mostly that lenders are going to have LTVs, and they're going to be pretty strict on them on their own. Most of these lenders that I recommend and I use are brick and mortar. They have funds. They can't get so creative. Like, if you meet a guy, the whole thing is you meet somebody at a local event and they're, them personally. They're a guy out of his 401k. He may be flexible, whereas these people have investors and people that they pay returns to. So they can't be as flexible if they go out and do a new program. They have to let the investors know what that program is. Yeah,
we're going to go into that next week in depth when it goes to the 506C Form D and the 506A. The SEC regulations regarding accredited investors and the amounts that you can actually utilize and the way that you can do it. That's all in those numbers that the SEC puts together. And if you can stick with that and understand that, you're in good shape. Institutional investors generally have a board that they have to answer to as far as what they're going to get involved in and what their expected returns are going to be. A lot of times they're somewhat tied to hedge funds, kind of a quasi deal. But private capital, truly private capital, is an individual that actually has their own cash to put into deals. And then alongside all that is also the syndication and crowdfunding. You can go up to $5 million now without even having to have anything. You just throw it out there and you can get it. So that's going to be in depth next week.
Yeah, there's something the states actually will have, in some cases, may have a requirement. So in week 6, it won't be next week, Kevin. It'll be next week. We'll do rehab and skip of work. So
Well,
6,
yeah.
yeah. And so the states have this thing called NASA, not to be confused with the space agency, because it's 2 S's. But I'll show you guys the website where you go, and you guys can read through it. And it goes through and it talks. You have to pay a fee through them, and they pay the states. And they got like all 50 states, and it tells you if you're doing Reg A, if you're doing Reg D, which is 506B and 506C. They both have slightly different requirements. They have it if they show you what you have to pay. They have like a table. Like if you're Tesla and you're doing you guys can go on that Edgar, scdc.gov. scdc.gov/Edgar. You guys can go on there and you can read Tesla and you can read General Motors. You can read all their stock filings. Believe me, you don't want to. I actually have done that a couple of times just because I was curious. And by about 10, and I could literally ask Julian and call her and say, "What's this?" And then she'd send me a bill for $1,000. So that's what security attorneys are paid for. They're actually some of the more higher paid attorneys in the legal profession. But you guys can go read. You can look at Grant Cardone's on his real estate funds. Julian actually is his securities attorney, and then you guys can also look at the Tulsa Real Estate Fund. I believe it's tref.com. If it's not, it's tref tref.org, or I forget exactly what it is. I haven't looked at them in a little while. They were a fund in Georgia. They named it after the Tulsa Real Estate Fund because the Tulsa was the Black Wall Street until it got burned down. And they were doing something, a lot of, they had NAACP and a few other organizations involved. And they did this in 2019. They started in 2020, right before the pandemic. They actually were raising money, and they did a Regulation A. So they had to go through pre-approval with the SEC. Julian was their attorney. So if you go look them up, they have their filings on their website. So you don't have to go to the SEC's website. You can just pull their filings up. It gets pretty detailed, and you can see that it was about a 9-month process, and you actually see her communications to the SEC on behalf of her client. And they basically went from like 12 questions to like 9 to like 6 to like 2. And then presto, they got permission to raise money. And that's how Regulation A works. And they were allowed to raise up to $50 million. And people there could put in as low as $50. And generally it was like a $500 minimum. And they actually have raised, last time I checked, it's been over a year, they were pretty successful. So you guys can actually go and look at their filings once these last 6 weeks, we're going to talk about a lot of those deals. I may pull some of these files as Regulation Ds to show you, and to show you a few and go through some. I'm definitely going to go through the terminology with you guys because this is a more advanced group. We're going to do your first deal for like newcomers who don't know anything, which is something I've wanted to do. It's just trying to get them out of the noise of all the people trying to sell them stuff. I want to get them, but I want to go through these last 6 weeks and teach you guys what waterfall is. And some of you already may know this, but how these funds are, what the requirements are. The SEC only operates during 8 o'clock to 5 o'clock Eastern time, Monday through Friday. But it's the one government agency that's probably the nicest to talk to because they actually are, I'm sure they've got hedge fund people and people that are, that call them all the time. I mean, the SEC obviously has an enforcement end. You don't really want to deal with the enforcement side. But a lot of people don't understand, like when people do get in trouble, the SEC doesn't actually arrest people. They don't have law enforcement power. So there's an episode of American Greed where a guy gets busted for a Ponzi scheme and he's in the SEC's office and he's upstairs and he's talking to them and he's like, you see a sigh of relief on his face because like, oh, well, we'll be in touch. Don't leave town. You just got your stuff together, all your paperwork. He was walking to the elevator. He goes down the elevator. The FBI is waiting for him to arrest him. So they called their brothers in the other 3-letter agency, and the guy was actually planning to run. He had his stuff in his car. He had airplane tickets, his passport, and all that stuff. But the SEC doesn't actually have arrest powers. Now, some states do. They have securities divisions and investigators and all that stuff. But the SEC doesn't actually arrest anybody. So most of the time, it's a civil thing. And a lot of securities attorneys have, like, you have errors or omissions insurance. They'll have insurance for that too, because sometimes they have to go back and everything is on the up and up when they do it. They wouldn't. None of them would do anything that they knew was going to be wrong. At least you'd hope they wouldn't. But they have insurance in case one of their clients goes out and does something illegal that they have to. Sometimes they get paid. They have to pay their fee back or something as a penalty. So with that, guys, I'm going to take it off recording, and then if you guys just want to, brainstorm or shoot the shit or whatever, otherwise.